Hi everybody, this is Anne. When Jim and I put together an underglaze painting video, one of our main goals is to try and keep the video as simple as possible so everyone can follow along. Inevitably, I still get messages from people who tell me that they're intimidated to try them, stating that they can't draw or that they have shaky hands. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate some very easy stylized illustrations that'll appeal even to the shakiest of hands. I'm starting on a mug that is dried to bone dry. I actually hand-built this mug with a special mug mold. If you'd like to see how I did it, check out the link above. I'm drawing border lines around the top and bottom of the mug so the area where the lip will touch will be on a smooth glazed surface. For personal preferences, I don't like glazing on top of my underglazed areas. I'm starting by drawing large, organic flowing shapes around the mug with a theme of various fruits in mind. I'm spacing them so they flow as you turn the mug, and I'm also letting them break out of the borderlined areas above and below. I'm thinking about orange wedges, cherries, berries, bananas, apples, and maybe even lemons for my inspiration. I'm not trying to draw realistic fruit, but I'm just looking to imply that they're fruit related with these bulky shapes. Now I'll add a little detail to each of those bulky shapes. Nothing fancy, mainly concentric circles of varying sizes or shapes that might define the shape as a fruit or section off the shape as perhaps the lighting might do. Now I'll be using various colors of Amico velvet underglazes. I'll be using a black and a white, as well as a red, blue, and yellow for my primary colors. I also have a lighter baby blue, a blush pink, and an ultraviolet, as those are harder colors to mix with my regular primary colors. I like to use synthetic fingernail detailer brushes in various sizes. They hold their shapes longer than fine art brushes, and they don't wear out as fast. I've taken out some of my underglaze and placed it in a small palette. I want to start by pulling out a little white underglaze. If I mix all the colors with the white, it'll give them all the same gouache lightened look, which will actually unify everything into a whole. I added a little yellow and then a touch of red for a dreamsicle orange color. I'm just laying that down in the bottom orange slice sections in 3 layers. I'm not really caring if I go outside the lines. This actually will give the painting movement, as you'll see later. I then painted the outer section of the orange, leaving space between the inside and the outer peel. I painted the upper fruit in the same similar way, leaving unpainted areas so they don't touch. Back to the palette, I'll be mixing an avocado green a little bit darker than the dreamsicle to contrast with it, with white, baby blue, yellow, and then a touch of the electric blue. I'm laying that down between the dreamsicle colors. If your colors start to dry a little bit blue, add a little more yellow. If the color dries too yellow, go back and add a little more blue. Now let's do a little highlighting. I loaded a detailer brush with watered down red and went around the outer edge of the orange peel and also touched the brush in the inner section of the orange slices, adding a little more dimension to them. On the cherry shape, I added a little dreamsicle orange to the highlighted areas of the cherry, then the 3 layers of the bright red for a solid contrast to the surrounding orange. Outlining will also make the shapes look even more like fruit. Using my smallest detailer brush, I dipped it straight into the black and tested the flow on the table. Remember to wipe the excess water from the shaft. The more pressure you put on the brush, plus the angle you hold it, creates thin or thicker lines. In this case, I wanted a variety of thin and thick lines, so I'm not concerned with trying to steady my hand or keeping it at an exact angle or anything. A little spontaneity can be good. I'm not trying to stay on the line, just letting my instinct take over. Remember that you can even add broken lines, as that gives your illustration even more character. To add even more detail, I'm scraping away some underglaze with a ball-tip tool, which will give your paintings energy and movement. Now here's a cup that I created earlier using the same fruit theme. I continued the techniques with the same colors all the way around. To finish it, I painted my white liner glaze around the illustrations. I used Opulence Wildflower glaze on the borders. I fired it to cone 5 with an 8-minute hold. The bright yellow really contrasts with the more muted fruit colors and makes the whole thing pop. Let's do another one starting on a bone-dry mug, this time using flowers as my inspiration. I started by penciling in a simple circle for the center, then drawing a swirly petaled shaped flower around that. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. Next, I drew a large circular shape next to it at a different height. I drew 3 teardrop shapes along the top border for tulips. I connected them to the bottom border with stems and their signature long leaves, again in a swirly pattern. I filled the entire mug. I then went back and filled in a little detail to certain areas like the flower center and to the large circular shape. I added a loose swirl from the inside to the border so it looked like maybe a rose. Just big blocky shapes at this point. I loaded my brush and laid down 3 layers of blush pink underglaze to the flower petals. Again, I'm not worried that the underglaze fills in the entire space or if it even goes outside the lines. While the last layer was still wet, I loaded my middle-sized brush with watered-down red and laid it down along the flower center in each petal. I repeated this several times for a darker shadow of red color. I then mixed a little yellow into the watered-down red to create an orange. I painted the center of the flower with the orange. Now if some of the orange bleeds into the red, even better. I mixed a little green using the light blue and the yellow. I painted the leaves with it. When the green was still wet, I added a little electric blue to the bottom of each leaf. I painted straight yellow onto my rose shape. Some areas got 3 layers of underglaze and some areas got only 1 or 2. I mixed a little red to the yellow and painted the orange somewhat along my penciled areas, which will create the illusion of depth among petals. For the tulips, I started again with the straight blush pink and laid 3 layers down onto each shape. While the last layer was still wet, I added watered-down ultraviolet along the top and bottom edges. If you get too sharp a contrast between the 2 colors, add a little more of the blush pink in between the 2 purpled areas to wash it out a little. Again, I painted the green to the leaves with a little electric blue along the bottom extending to the top. With my detailer brush, I added my swirly lines, not always following the pencil lines underneath, but using my instinct. As you see, I'm not trying to make uniform lines. The more variety in the lines gives the illustrations more vibrancy and movement. Here's a mug with a similar design that I painted earlier. When painting flowers, I like to add a little life to them, so I added a couple of little bees in the blank areas. I glazed the borders with Amico Honeydew Green, which almost looks like a background for the brightly colored flowers. I brushed white liner glaze around my flowers and fired it to cone 5 with an 8-minute hold. So let's do one more, this time using poppies as my theme. When opened up, poppies have a very organic shape to them, so let's start with a simple large organic circle, then add an offset center, a division section under the center, and then add a few lines connecting the center to the outer circle. Now let's do another beside it, and then continue with the organic shapes all the way around the mug at different heights. I connected the shapes with stems to the bottom border. On the first flower, I laid down blush pink in between the penciled lines that I had marked. Using a little watered-down red, I laid down my brush between the center and division sections, then continued this around the entire center. I did the same thing under that division section so that the division section becomes a foreshortened edge of a petal. I painted the green into the center of the poppy. Using my smallest brush, I painted border lines around the center and the petal and the stem. Again, I like the variety of widths in the lines and even a few skips for movement. The next will be more of a California poppy, starting with the yellow. This time for shadow, I'm using some baby blue between the center and the bottom division mark. I'm painting orange and green into the center, then outlining it with my border lines. On this California poppy, I'm doing the shadows with watered-down orange. Adding the orange along the rim makes the petal look like they're tilted backwards. Adding it to the bottom section and around the center makes those areas look like they're downward in the shadows. Here's one I created earlier where I continued the techniques all the way around. I also added some unopened flowers and a few bees and a ladybug. To finish it, I painted Amico Weeping Plum on the borders. I painted my white liner glaze around all the illustrations. I fired the mug to cone 5 with an 8-minute hold. The warm plum color really brings out the brightly colored flowers into the foreground. I hope you find these illustrations not only easy to draw, but easy to paint, even for those of you who might have shaky hands. Give them a try. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. In any case, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time in the studio.